Grinnell with red hair ablazing. People suspected that hell he'd be raising. Right pony Billy with speed out on wings. These are a few of Jack's favorite things. Teasing and pleasing happy hollow South Enders, giving them rides in his coupe with shiny.
Happy birthday! This is your life!
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday,
dear Jack. Happy birthday to you. Anybody getting this on video?
I know you from the days before. 80 years. Is it working?
Now it is.
Is it working?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Well, I guess the man of the night is here. Good evening, everyone. When I was asked to pay tribute to a gentleman who has served his country and his hometown over and beyond all of our expectations, I felt honored to have the right to say, "This is your life, Jack Marcum."
Maybe my dad.
Now, I gotta hand this to you because this is how Ralph Edwards always did it. This is your life, Jack Marcum. Go, Jack.
One page.
Well, that's just yeah, check the index. Okay, we're going to go here. There were some particular unusual things about July the 13th, 1933. It was an unusual, stifling hot day in Grinnell. So much so that your dad, Isaac Harvey Marcum, cleverly placed a block of ice on a bale of hay with a fan blowing behind the ice to cool your mother, Bertha Ruth Jones Marcum. As you were brought into this world, several gathered for the event in the home at 322 West Street. Mary Ellen? Okay. We're having a few words here from Mary Ellen.
Oh, a few words.
Thank you.
Well, he was born in the night, and I wandered up the next morning about 10, and there was this baby with this big shock of red hair. And he was spoiled rotten, of course, but his sister Darlene was my best friend. And wherever we went, he went too. When he got a little older, he was a little rascal. But I lost track of him, and then the next thing I knew, here he was teaching English. So I hope we're using the correct pronunciation.
Yeah.
Because I know you were a good teacher. That's about all I got to say, but I've known him since the day he was born, and I never let him forget it.
Thank you. I guess I forgot to tell everybody what my name is. I'm Betty Hammond from Grinnell, and I'm really happy to be here no, I won't say that I'm the same age you are, Jack. Besides Mary Ellen and your sister, was the county nurse, Miss Rohr, and a neighbor, Miss Philipper. Your bright red hair was unusual, and your temperament was uniquely unusual. And that's the way you've remained these 80 years, Jack, uniquely unusual. And take that as a compliment. Darlene, you're only an elder sister by 10 years, wanted to name you Jackie. And your parents liked Dale for a middle name in honor of the funeral director and furniture store owner, Old Dale Smith, for whom your father worked at one time. But you were not officially named until the age of 18. The Navy had no record of a Jackie Dale Marcum, only a Jack Marcum. And so your name was officially changed from Jackie to Jack. You attended Davis Elementary School, and during this time your family moved from 322 to 335 West Street. Another move to a home at 416 West Street was the first to include indoor plumbing. The cost of this home was $2,000. Quite a scary price for your parents who worked hard to get by. Bertha doing wallpapering and Harvey working for the WPA. He later worked for International Harvester. Jack, do you remember when at the age of 8 you almost ended up in Eldora? At least that was your fear after your mom discovered some dice you brought home from the Ben Franklin store without paying for it. Your mother marched you right back down to that store and made you confess to the owner. Later, that owner gave you a job, sweeping floors and stocking shelves. There were other mischievous happenings during your youth growing up in the south end of Grinnell, sometimes known as Happy Hollow. Sometimes you could be a little nuisance to your neighborhood friends who were a little older than you, but they knew how to take care of you. Bob Johnson, is he in the audience? Do you have something to say?
I sure do. No, Jackie for all his life.
I've known him for years and years and years and years, and we're old buddies. You see him come down the old road. We live about a half block from him. He'd come down, bib overalls, barefooted, and I'd hang him on the kitchen door so he couldn't cause any trouble when he gets better. But the best one on him was my mother would let the kids go to Arbor Lake and play around. So one time they were late getting home, and she said, "So why don't you go down and see if you can see Jackie and my little brother Neil?" So I went down, and they were on a raft, an old homemade raft, out in the middle of the lake. And they seen me, and they had 2x4s, and boy, did they throw the water. They just splattered water all over the place. And when they got home, I never said a word to Mom, and for about 2 weeks, Jackie was cutting my kindling for me, and my brother was washing my car. Jackie Dale, my mother thought the world of this guy. In fact, there's a chair in the kitchen for him to sit when he comes down to eat. Happy birthday.
We are two of the many raggedy-ass South Enders.
It's hard to imagine now, but during high school you still had plenty of hair, and it was still bright red. It's also hard to imagine that you were a skinny runt. Hard to imagine that. But by your sophomore year, you had been teased until you hated school enough that you finally decided to quit and stay at home. One day the principal, T.T. Cranny, came to your home, kicked you in the seat of the pants, and hauled you off in his car back to school. Mr. Cranny told you that he needed someone to be an athletic manager, and he thought you would be perfect for the job because it would be easy to spot you on the field with your bright red hair. You earned a whopping $4 a week, and from then on you had a love affair with school. You graduated from Grinnell High School with the class of 1951, and you will be a regular meet with and feel close to them special class. And we have Jerry Hagan's going to get up and say something.
Well, Jack and I first got acquainted when we were in 6th grade. We played against each other in an elementary basketball tournament. And he went to Davis School and I went to Cooper. When we got to junior high in 7th and 8th grade, which is where the community building is now, we were a little better acquainted. And then when he got to high school and he became the manager, we really got to be good friends because I played the 3 sports that we had then, which was football, basketball, and track. And he was the manager for all of those things. One night, one of his duties when we played football was to bring the water out to the huddle when we had timeout. And I think it was in our junior year, we were playing Pella that night. And our water bucket consisted of an old potato sprayer full of water with a strap on it. And we had a timeout, and this 85-pound red-headed giant came running out on the field with the water bucket strapped to his back, and the strap broke. The bucket flew down, hit him in the leg, and broke his ankle. He was lying on the field, and he had kind of laughing because he was embarrassed, but he had tears in his eyes because it hurt so much. And I think probably in all of the annals of football, this is probably the first time that the football team carried the water boy off the field. When we graduated, Jack was our class donor. We didn't have the honors night like they do now. We had class day, and Jack gave each one of us a fictitious gift that he predicted would happen to us when we got to be adults. And I don't think any of those things ever really happened, but we had a good time with that. Since that time, he's been our class donor or class agent all of these years. Which means that he has planned our class reunions, and I think we've had one every 5 years. He writes us a Christmas letter every year summarizing the past year's happenings. He keeps us informed of all the things that we do with our class through email and letters. And every month we have a luncheon at one of the local restaurants, and are usually attended by 6 to 12 people who are locally in the class, and sometimes more if people who live far away show up once in a while. One of the things that happened to us for our 50th class reunion, Jack spent many hours compiling this book for each one of the class members. I feel like I'm talking with my back to all of you people, but I guess that's the way we're set up. This has all of the happenings from the time we were in kindergarten till we graduated, and then a little story about each one of us as we got to be adults. During this 50th reunion, which was in 2001, we did all those fun things that you did when you were kids. We painted the windows downtown and had picnics and banquets and tours, and we rode on the flatbed truck in the homecoming parade. We had a large sign on the truck which said the class of 1951, and as we neared the end of the parade, Jack stood up near the sign to get a picture of himself, but somehow the C and L in the word class got blocked out. And when they took the picture, here he was in his orange and black attire, the ass of 1951. When Jack got through with the Navy, after cooking for 5 years, he thought he wanted to have a restaurant of his own. And so he and I and a couple other guys put our money together, and we leased the old White Spot sandwich shop, which was on 6th Avenue, about where the F&M Bank is now. And we remodeled it into a very small supper club. The food was really good, but our exhaust system wasn't very good. People could hardly see each other from the smoke as they sat across the aisles, so we had to open the doors. After a while, Jack decided he didn't want to do this anymore. Of course, we had named this place J.D.'s Restaurant, as you knew. But we moved uptown at where the old pool hall was on Main Street, upstairs, and Bob Globus took Jack's spot when Jack got out of it, and so he ran it very successfully for many years, but it was always known as JD's, although I don't think most people probably even knew why it was called that. When Jack got tired of being a cook, I guess, he went back to school, got his credentials, and became an English teacher. He came back to Grinnell from Prairie City after he taught there for a while in 1965. And that same year, I came back to Grinnell from Barn City, teaching and coaching there. And that year, the two of us took over the scoring, timing, and announcing duties for the high school. And 48 years later, they can't get rid of us. We're still at it. And we just last week got our schedules for this upcoming football season. Believe me, that's a lot of national anthems to stand up for. And when they say, "Oh, say, can you see?" we've seen quite a lot. In 1978, Walter Redrickson was the principal of the high school then, but he was also on the board of control for the Iowa High School Athletic Association, and he suggested to them that maybe Jack and I might be able to work our magic at the boys' state basketball tournament. So they gave us an audition by doing the consolation games that year, where they figured we couldn't follow that up too bad. But I guess they liked us, and they hired us back, and Jack stayed with that for more than 12 years. And I just gave it up last year after 35 years. We've seen a lot of wonderful ball games, a lot of great players, and we've certainly had a lot of stories to tell. I'll just close with one that I think maybe stood out among all the rest. Some of you heard it, I'm sure, and maybe some of you were there that night. But this happened. The game was very close, and it was exciting. Came down to near the end, and the star player for Oskaloosa got hurt. He's lying on the field, and there's a great hush all over the crowd. And we're sitting in the press box waiting for play to resume. Denny Conway, who was our spotter that night, said to Jack, "Would you like some more Pepsi-Cola, Jack?" And unbeknown to Jack, his microphone was open. And in a very loud voice, he said, "Oh God, no, Denny." He said, "Right now I think I could pee over the moon." Immediately, the whole crowd offered their paper cups. Anybody else would have been totally embarrassed. But in a very calm voice, Jack said, "Well, I really do have to go." Well, anyway, it's been a marvelous 80 years, Jackson. And I hope that the coming 80 years is as good, if not better. Happy birthday, old buddy.
Immediately following high school graduation, you joined the United States Navy and served during the Korean War from 1951 to 1956 as a cook on the USS Tillamook in the Arctic Ocean and the Bering Sea. Do you remember trying to bake cakes without them falling while the ship rocked on the waves? Next, you served in Japan, followed by 2 years in Paris and France. I'll bet you had a great time there. While on leave between duty stations, you married your high school sweetheart, Nella Darlene Schultz, at Trinity Lutheran Church near Marcum, Iowa, July the 3rd, 1953. You were blessed with 2 sons, Scott Montgomery on June 28, 1954, and Jay Douglas on January 12, 1957. Scott, do you have some things to say?
I'll do it later.
Oh, okay. After the Navy, you tried for several years to find your professional self, and your life was varied, to say the least. You tried reaching quite a number of aspirations, exploring and acting a career in New York, doing carpenter work, teaching Arthur Murray dance, managing restaurants, and working for General Telephone. None of these occupations seemed quite right for you. So you and your family moved to the married student housing in Iowa City, where you majored in speech and dramatic arts. Probably no one there doubts that talking and being dramatic fits you to a T. You returned later to the University of Iowa for your teaching certificate, and your parents were proud to know that you were the first college graduate in the family. Once in front of the classroom, you knew immediately that you had finally found your niche, your profession. You taught English at Prairie City for 2 years, then at Grinnell High School from 1965 until your retirement in 1994.
I'm Dick Bachman, and how do you compact 30 plus years of teaching with a guy like Jack Marcum? I'm sorry. I was saying, how can you compact 30 plus years of teaching with a guy like Jack Marcum? you had been teaching here 1 year, Jack, when I and several other members of the group here came to the faculty. We could tell right away that you were a born-again teacher. As Betty mentioned earlier, you were quite a prodigy here in Grinnell. Everybody looked up to you. You had a real gift for teaching. As Betty mentioned earlier, you brought many of your life experiences and world travels into your classroom. You related very well to the students, no matter where they lived, where they came from, their background, etc. You were very well received. In your classroom, you seem to have a good eye for the young females. I can remember one situation where, and you were still in good health at that time, you came into a classroom and you said to the students, I have a heart condition, and if I should pass out, looking at the good-looking females, he said, I would like you and you and you to give me mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. As a counselor, after I moved from driver ed to counseling, we kind of got to work together with your classes. You taught 9th grade English, speaking and listening, American literature, Shakespeare mythology, and of course one of the courses that we encouraged, Bob, Tony, and Fergie and I encouraged students to take was grammar. We knew that that course would help you prepare for the college admittance exams and also prepare them for freshman college English. And in talking to several students who came back after having your class, they also related to the fact that that was one of the toughest courses they had taken, but it also one that had prepared them best for their upcoming years. As a counselor, as I stated, we had the opportunity to work with some fantastic foreign exchange students. And when they would come in, the parents sometimes would bring the students in to register for classes. And as Bob, Tony, and I knew, and Fergie, that we sometimes did not know the language very well. So consequently, we were trying to get across to them the courses to take. And sometimes we involved M to come in and speak Spanish to them, the French teacher. But occasionally they were in class, and so we had to kind of relay to the students and the parents what we would like for them to take. Well, as I don't know what, but I began to speak quite loudly at the time, and in the process would get to swinging hands and arms, trying to explain to the students as to what to do. And I'd look out my window, and there would be Jack standing out there making faces at me, going through same the arm motions, etc., etc. And it was all I could do to keep a straight face while talking to the parents and the students. But anyway, it worked out really well, and Jack never let me forget it. In the process, too, Jack was a very conscientious person when it came to writing letters of recommendation for students, whether they were applying for a job, whether they were going on to college, etc. You always knew that he was going to take a lot of time, a lot of thought, and prepare the best letter he could for that student. And he always did. We never had to worry about his grades coming in. They were always on time, as Esther can attest to. The recommendations were always there. We never had to worry about anything that Jack was supposed to take care of. As a faculty, and a lot of you are here, at that time we became a very close, well-knit group. And a lot of that was due to Jack. He would arrange potlucks, chili suppers, etc., all at his house, and we had a good time getting together. He kept the faculty interested, to say the least. At times in the teacher's lounge, too, it was a good close-knit faculty. But we weren't above playing pranks on one another. And as Jack can recall, we had one faculty member who was quite animate when it came to eating his lunch. He always brought a banana. So Jack got the idea that if he would take a needle and thread and string through that banana, that when he came in and started yanking on the skin, the banana would just fall out all over the place. Well, Jack did that. And so the faculty at that time, even though I think a lot of them left the classes to come to see what was going to happen. So I thought at the time the instructor was a little bit concerned because he'd never seen that many people in the faculty lounge. So everybody was kind of trying to be inconspicuous, and Jack was there and all that. And he came in, grabbed his banana and gave it a yank, and nothing happened. Well, come to find out, the banana in the meantime had softened up and nobody knew what to say. We just kind of let it go. But that was another prank that we tried on the faculty. I guess I can't quit without telling one story that I'll never forget. And I think Scott or Jay, this pertains to you as well. This was back when I was teaching driver ed, and one frosty, cool morning with the grass frosted, the street was kind of frosty, the phone rang. It was Jack. He said, "Hey, Bach, I got a form here that needs to be signed. It's either for a driver ed certificate, a good student discount, insurance, whatever. Well, I need it signed." And I said, "Well, just bring it over." So in a little bit, Marcia and I looked out, and here he came down the street on his two-wheel motor scooter, all bundled up, holding the devil, frost on the ground. He comes in, we sign the paper. He said, "Would you like to see my motorbike?" And I said, "Sure." So we go out in the driveway, and we're watching. He's explaining the bike, etc. I had not seen it before. And all of a sudden he starts it, and just like crazy, it was facing right towards us, and it came at us, and then he veered it. And when he veered it, the back tire slipped off of the edge of the driveway into that frost-covered grass. He fish-tailed. He went down over our curb, across the street, up the neighbor's curb, and was heading right for a tree. And Marcia and I were standing there wondering, what's going on?
You weren't standing.
All of a sudden, he and the bike go sprawling out in the grass. And like I said, we were standing there watching, and we didn't know whether he was hurt or not. And I don't think he said cheese and crackers. But he gets up and kind of shakes around, looks around. And by that time, Marcia and I were laughing. But I think, Jack, if you'd have hit that tree, or if you'd have missed it, you'd been in South America by now. Because the way that thing was going. Anyway, Jack, you've given a lot of memories to students and the faculties here at the Grinnell area. We appreciate very much what you've done. Marcia even has a couple stories she'd like to relate.
They're very short ones. As Dick said, our staff was very supportive of each other and very caring. And when I had a surgery back in '77, a few days later I received a box of long red-stemmed roses. And in those days that was most unusual. And my friends that were there just said, oh, how romantic. Who sent you these long-stemmed roses? And I opened the box and took out the card, and it said, "From the Phantom Shitter." And my other short story makes you kind of question. Dick always said that Jack never had any discipline problems. And I sort of question that because last year I was visiting with one of my former second grade students, and she told me that she had a child at Davis School now, and that he had come home recently and said, "Boy, did we have to be good at school today. We couldn't talk out loud, we couldn't get out of our seats, we had to raise our hands. We had to march quietly to PE. Our substitute teacher told us he was 100 years old. And the mother said, that just couldn't be. What was his name? Mr. Marcum.
Collaboration program and taught English at ISU for an academic year. You enjoyed the experience, but knew your heart was with teaching at the high school level. Students appreciated your effective teaching methods, including your 3 C's: correct, clear, and concise. Yes, Jack Marcum teaching conciseness. They also appreciated your nurturing spirit and your occasional cheese and crackers explanations. Your dad stopping by the classroom, bringing McDonald's apple pies, was a fun interruption from time to time for the students. The students enjoyed your quirky ways and your storytelling from the antique barber chair. I don't know if anybody knows, did you have an antique barber chair in your room or what? Is there any students here that would like to say anything about Jack at this time? Okay, we'll go on. Ever since your days of being a student...
I will. I may have been one of Jack's most difficult students. But I remember when he was a substitute for 9th grade English, and I just thought, wow, what a master teacher. And it was several days or weeks, and he was just so captivating and had these stories of travel, probably really inspired a lot of my travel abroad. But we just loved the stories, and then the content that he would teach, and the humor that he brought into life. And then later, when I had him a few years later, I was quite stubborn, and I was difficult because my mom and he were dating, and that was not so easy as a high school student. So I really was quite cold, but yet still, he was one of my favorite teachers. I had to pretend like he wasn't, though. That I didn't know him and all of those things. But he did have students journal every day at the beginning of class. And what a grounding thing to do at that time in our lives when there was so much change happening. And in addition to that, we knew that he really cared, because he would often take the time to comment and write heartfelt responses. And right now I'm a teacher, and I know that time is extremely limited and valuable, and the time that he took and made each person feel so special and so cared for, that meant quite a lot. And then on top of that, he had a secret stash of Reese's peanut butter cups. And he would give those to even me, who gave him such a hard time. So I owe you more than one bag. But one thing I wanted to say is, so Jack was so funny and so creative and wove people together, but he also had has a heart of gold and incredible patience. And unconditional love. Incredible amount of unconditional love. For years I called him Mr. Marcum. Even when he was such a part of the family, I would still call him Mr. Marcum. And finally, when I was abroad in Chile, I'd always dreamed of having the perfect family, and then when I was away, I realized, well, even though it's not the necessarily normal family, it is perfect. And I wrote a letter to him, and it was, Dear Jack. And only he would understand, what that meant, that really some doors had opened, and but he's so special and such a model of unconditional love and fun and all of those things. So thank you, Jack.
Well, now I don't know if I can go ahead. I have to talk. since your days of being a student athletic manager, you've been interested in high school sports, always supporting the kids. You announced for wrestling, track, swimming, and basketball, and you were scorekeeper for the boys' state tournaments concerning athletics. You were most well known for 33 years of announcing for Grinnell High School football. That degree in theater did not go to waste, and you served on the community theater board and directed around 10 plays and 2 musicals and performed in approximately 25 or 30 plays. And you hammed it up as MC of a local radio show, KGRN on the Marcum. Gotta find this. This is about time that in the 1980s, Jack and I started our long love affair together. On the stage, you were a very ill man, Jack. Do you remember? He was bedfast. The doctors called in a very buxom redhead to nurse him as their last hope as his several years went by and your illness worsened. The doctors were concerned your illness was, things were not coming to an end. They thought only one last thing might help. They would come clean and have the nurse shed her nurse's uniform and cap down to her skimpy purple teddy. Jack, you raised up your head and gave me a look, and you changed for the better. You recognized your lifelong hooker had been taking care of you for all those years. That's how Jack and I kind of got together. Okay. In 1990, you met your second wife, Janet Stuchis, while you and Janet's son, Chad, were in a play, Our Town. The two of you were married 5 years later, and you gained 2 more children, Chad and Kirsten. Is it Kirsten? Kristen.
I object. I object to this. Now, just a minute here. You were supposed to marry me. Well, at least you were supposed to marry Opal Cronky. When you were in the show, Opal's husband, at my dinner theater, that would have been in December of 2008. He played Captain Mooney, a 94-year-old sea captain and escapee from a nursing home. And he came to Opal Cronky for help and assistance. Actually, he had really wanted to have a friend, a lady friend. I'm not sure what happened to you, Betty, but he was on to the next gal. And he was looking for a wife. So his character was, of course. And so he put an ad in the classifieds, and it said, Mr. Handsome, young, virile, 6'2", witty, world-wise, and wealthy man looking for a spouse. When he showed up at my door, it was a little different story, but I let him in anyway. Now, also, as Captain Mooney, Jack, do you remember that you had a deep love affair with Moa Moa in the city of Tonga Tonga on the island of Luna Luna? Now, I say all those things because nobody on this earth can act better than Jack Marcum can. And at age, that was in 2008, so what were you, about 75? He was up there and had more lines than most of us, never missed a beat. If he did, he knew how to cover. Sometimes the cover would just be to start laughing, and that made everybody else laugh, so it was all right. And he also could climb over chairs, climb under tables, and play dead really well. So I'm very thankful to Jack for everything that he did with me. In fact, Jack, I didn't realize it until I was researching. You started with Stage Right Productions, my acting company. The very first show back in 2002, you and Cynthia Christopher were in Duck Variations. And you were in the final show, at least so far, that we've done, and that was in 2008. The beginning and the end, the alpha, the omega. Need I say more? I want to read something to you that you actually said. You probably could say it still now, as Captain Moody. and this seems appropriate for the occasion. You said on stage, "Rejoice, O young man, in thy youth, and let thy heart cheer thee. Behold the sun, the light is sweet. Withhold not thy hand, for thou knowest not which shall prosper." So Jack, you need to rejoice for all of the relationships that you've made over the time. We are thankful for everything you've done for everybody because you're always there to lend a hand. And I think you're pretty prosperous. So happy birthday, Jack, and hope to see you at Luna Luna.
I can't agree with Carl on one thing. You remember Jack when he was on stage? And I was so scared I was going to forget my lines because I was with a professional. And we were going along just great. And I said my line, and there was a pause, and I looked up, and the blankest look on your face. He forgot his line. I don't even remember what I said, but I covered for you, and it turned out all right. No one will agree that you're a bit unusual. Who else would love snow so much to feel compelled to scamper out to his backyard in the dark evening of a first season snow to make a nude snow angel, forgetting about the motion light. But Jack, the community appreciates you and your volunteerism, which include caring adults, emceeing for Ag Appreciation Days, hospice, Goodfellow, and PEO fundraisers, among others. You still volunteer for various events and judge schools' children's essays for ELK scholarships. Jack, you continue to enjoy get-togethers with classmates, retired teacher friends, and pool-playing buddies. At the age of 80, you're doing pretty well to be chief maintenance and repairman of your century-old four-story home. You continue to enjoy theater, old-time country music, your family, which by this time includes daughter-in-laws, son-in-law, grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren. Your church family, friends in the Grinnell community, and social events. And now, Jack Marcum, this is one of those events. You're an all-around unusual but great guy. And we all love you. Enjoy the evening. This is your life. And Jack, I was going to wear the purple skimpy teddy, but Janet said no. Well, we were a lot younger then, too. Thanks, everybody, for coming, and enjoy your meal. Janet, do you have something to say? Or did somebody get forgotten that wanted to say something? Jack thought.
We'll be here all night.
I just wanted to thank everybody so much for coming tonight. And Scott will be next. And just I wanted to make sure everybody knows where the bathrooms are too. That's important. You go down this hall on your right, or you go down this hall on your left. And I hope everybody has a great time tonight.
I also wanted to thank everyone for coming. I also wanted to let you know that this party was planned by Janet. This is all her doing, and I'm just the red herring in this. If you got the invitation, my name was on that, so nobody be sending anything to her address and have him open it and spoil the surprise. And then she called up one day and said, "Your dad wants to plan his own 80th birthday party. What can we do?" So I called my brother and we talked, and then I called Dad and said, "We're going to plan an 80th birthday party for you, so don't do anything." So we did. So this is it. This you're not getting anything from us on the 13th. Some wanted to be here, but had scheduling conflicts, but they wanted me to mention Jim White. Had some weddings to do, couldn't be here, but the flower on the centerpiece on your table is from Jim. Happy birthday. And also Dr. Stan Greenwald is in Indiana. Had a grandson wedding, and so he couldn't be here. And I'd mentioned that Jay, his family, they were planning to be here, but their daughter Samantha is expecting their third child, and she's not doing very well. She is better than she has been, but because of that they couldn't get away to make it here. But they were going to plan to be here, so they send you their love. Sorry they couldn't be here with you. I've been asked to just offer a word of prayer for our meal and let you know that after everybody's gone through the line while we're eating, if anybody would like to share some more stories, just raise your hand. We'll bring the microphone to you. There are also some songs that are planned while you're eating for further entertainment. So, let's pray. Heavenly Father, so it stood 90 years on the throne. It was taller by half than the old man himself, though his weight not a pennyweight more. It was bought on the morn of the day that he was born, and was always his pleasure and pride. But it stopped short, never to run again, when the old man died. 90 years without slumbering, its 5 seconds numbering. But it stopped short, never to run again, when the old man died. Watched as its pendulum swerved to and fro, many hours he spent as a boy. And in childhood and manhood the clock seemed to know, and to share both his grief and his joy. For it struck 24 as he entered through the door, with his blooming and beautiful bride. But it stopped short, never to run again, when the old man died. My grandmother claimed that the clock was a fiend, and was sure that the thing hated her. After yelling at Grandpa and then walking in, she swore that she heard it say her. But it won both her heart and her trust as time went by, for 'twas truly for both that she cried. When that clock stopped, never to run again, when the old man died. Now his clock is my own, and it sits on my room, though it's never gone tick nor gone tock. I've had experts come in, and they all say real soon that there's naught they can do for that clock. But 10 years to the day when the old man passed away, now to repair it I no longer tried. The clock struck 24, fell apart on the floor as though completely, and now it has died. 90
suspected that hell he'd be raising. Ride pony Billy with speed as on wings. These are a few of Jack's favorite things. Teasing and pleasing happy hollow South Enders, giving them rides in his coupe with shiny fenders, stopping to dance in the dark.